There comes a moment in the inner journey when everything begins to align in ways almost imperceptible. Small signs emerge amid everyday life. Simple gestures gain depth. Seemingly casual encounters reveal hidden meaning. It's as if the universe begins to whisper that something profound and true is about to surface. When genuine love approaches, it isn't only the heart that feels it, the entire soul responds. This approach doesn't begin on the outside, but within us as we mature and become able to recognize the reflection of our own essence in another. Based on Carl Jung's teachings, we will explore the subtle and symbolic hints that announce the arrival of true love, the kind that doesn't come to fill what's missing, but to expand what has already been integrated. Comment below. I recognize the signs of love approaching. In Jung's view, true love is not merely an emotional or romantic experience, but a reflection of the individuation process, the path of self-knowledge and integration of the unconscious aspects of the psyche. For Jung, the meeting with a significant other, the one who represents a deep and transformative connection, is closely linked to projection and shadow integration. At first, we project onto the other what we have not yet recognized within ourselves. This projection can charm us or disturb us, but it always reveals something essential. As we advance along this path of self-discovery, we begin to recognize the archetypal images of the anima and the animus, the inner representations of the feminine and masculine within each of us. When these archetypes start being integrated consciously, we are less dominated by romantic illusions and better prepared to live authentic, mature relationships. The love that approaches, then, is not the one we idealize, but the one that matches our level of consciousness and inner integration. The approach of true love is, therefore, a reflection of our own psychic maturity. The signs of its arrival appear when we stop seeking wholeness in another and begin living in coherence with who we truly are. The other ceases to be an emotional crutch and becomes a symbolic mirror of our own being. It is at this point that the most meaningful encounters occur, and not by chance but by inner resonance. Thus, love doesn't come to save us, but to walk beside us on a path we've already chosen alone, the path of wholeness. There is a kind of silence that is not the absence of sound, but the presence of depth. It settles in when the noise of external searching fades, when the urge for approval, company, or distraction loses its meaning. This silence, from the perspective of Jungian psychology, is not a sterile void, but a fertile space where the soul begins to breathe on its own. It is here that a person begins to show the first signs of readiness to receive true love into their life. Genuine love does not bloom in the soil of need, but in the mature ground of psychic integrity. When someone is still dominated by the fear of loneliness, by the need to be completed by another, or by fantasies of romantic rescue, they are still living on the margins of individuation. For Jung, the love that truly saves is not the one that comes from outside, but the one that springs from the union of the inner opposites. And that union begins to manifest precisely when one learns to inhabit their own silence, not as punishment, but as a temple. This silence is an archetypal sign. It appears when the psyche is leaving behind a cycle of emotional projections and coming into contact with the self, the regulating center of inner totality. At that moment, the search for love stops being an escape from solitude and becomes a natural extension of inner realization. The person no longer desires another to flee from themselves, but to share their wholeness with someone walking the same path of awareness. Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But that transformation is only possible when both substances are pure, meaning when each individual has gone through the distillation of their unconscious impulses. This process begins in silence. When the noise of external expectations quiets, one starts hearing their inner truth, and it is that truth that begins to resonate with the possibility of authentic love. Ancient initiation rituals always required periods of retreat and silence. The symbolism endures in modern psychology. Temporary withdrawal from the outer world is essential for psychic rebirth. When someone begins to feel at peace in their own presence, when the absence of another no longer feels like suffering, but becomes a field of inner creation, that is one of the deepest signs that love is approaching. For it is exactly then that the heart no longer begs for company, but becomes available for a real encounter. In inner silence, We also begin to notice subtle movements of the soul. Choices become clearer, unconscious patterns more visible, and desires stop being uncontrolled impulses to become legitimate expressions of the self. Inner listening sharpens, and with it, a new perception of the other begins to emerge. The love that approaches is the one that will recognize that frequency, not of lack, but of presence. Readiness for true love is therefore not measured by the number of past relationships, accumulated experience, or age. It is measured by the quality of the silence one inhabits. When that silence becomes a space of communion with the deepest parts of oneself, the psyche creates a magnetic field that naturally attracts what resonates with it. Jung pointed out that meaningful encounters are not determined solely by external factors, but by synchronicities that appear when we are internally aligned. This kind of silence is not easy to reach. It demands walking through the pain of disillusionment, the frustration of failed attempts, the confrontation with one's own emptiness. But instead of destroying us, the process strengthens us. It dismantles the characters we created to be loved and reveals the essence that is already in itself worthy of love. And it is exactly that essence that will be recognized by another when true love arrives, not as a projected fantasy, but as a concrete presence responding to our own truth. When this silence is reached, there is no rush. The soul knows that what must come will come in its own time. In that state of inner serenity, the first signs become visible, unexpected encounters with people who awaken something profound, synchronicities carrying hidden messages, sensations of recognition that defy rational explanation. These are the whispers of the soul saying that something is near and that we are ready to receive it. No deep transformation happens without first crossing our own inner shadows. Jung called this territory the shadow, everything repressed, denied, or excluded from consciousness throughout life. When we talk about the signs of true love approaching, it is inevitable to speak of the recognition and integration of the shadow. As long as we remain trapped in the same unconscious patterns, we will keep attracting relationships that mirror our unresolved wounds. The shadow manifests in relationships through intense reactions, exaggerated judgments, emotional dependency, disproportionate jealousy, and especially the repetition of the same story. The person feels that despite different partners, everything unfolds the same way. The same conflicts, abandonments, disappointments. This repetition is not punishment, but invitation. The psyche trying, through pain, to lead the individual towards self-knowledge. Jung said, "What we do not make conscious appears in our life as fate." Breaking these cycles requires courage to look inward and ask honestly, what within me contributes to these patterns? What part of me is seeking in another what I haven't yet found in myself? Facing the shadow means looking into this mirror that shows not only what was done to us, but what we do to ourselves. When we are willing to cross this territory, we begin to see that many of our emotional choices were driven by childhood wounds, romantic idealizations, or the refusal to grow up emotionally. Facing the shadow doesn't mean we stop making mistakes or become perfect beings. On the contrary, it means we begin to take responsibility for our part. When we recognize our projections, we remove from the other the burden of being our healer or our villain. From then on, love ceases to be a stage for compensation and becomes a space for real growth. This is one of the most powerful signs that we are approaching true love, the end of the unconscious war with the past. By integrating the shadow, we also free ourselves from the fantasy that ideal love will deliver us from pain. We start realizing that authentic love is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of consciousness. The relationship becomes a mirror space where the other reflects, clearly but without cruelty, the aspects that still need care, because now we know who we are, and even more importantly, who we no longer need to be. This break with repetitive patterns is also marked by a change in emotional vibration. A person stops being drawn to relationships rooted in drama, need, or dependency, and begins to value those where there is truth, stability, and presence. This doesn't happen through rational effort, but through inner transformation. What once seemed attractive, the thrill of the unattainable or the intensity of the unpredictable, is now recognized as part of an old script that no longer holds emotional power. Analytical psychology shows that every deep change begins with symbolic recognition. The individual sees the story behind their choices in love, and in understanding that story, they can rewrite it. This is the moment when consciousness expands, and with it, the possibility of attracting love aligned with this new perception of self. Jung reminded us, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. It is that light of awareness cutting through old patterns that allows the cycle to end. Another sign that true love is approaching is the fading of the compulsion to be in a relationship. The person is no longer desperate to find someone because they've understood that urgency usually leads to the same places. There is a calm that comes from trust in one's own process, and that calm is magnetic. It attracts what resonates with the new vibration. This becomes visible even in small choices, the kind of conversations one entertains, the boundaries that are now clear, the self-respect that is no longer negotiable. True love is not merely a gift we receive, but a consequence of psychic maturity, and this maturity inevitably passes through the shadow. Those who cross that territory with honesty are no longer searching for a love that saves them, but for someone who shares the journey. This is the great break with unconscious patterns, no longer seeking parents, saviors, or victims, but finding partners, allies, and companions on the path. When the shadow begins to integrate, the vision of love changes completely. It's no longer about finding someone perfect, but someone willing to grow together. This realistic yet uncynical outlook creates the ideal space for true love to blossom. Life, governed also by symbolic and unconscious forces, starts responding to this new inner state with more aligned, mature, and profound encounters. In Jungian psychology, the archetypes of the anima and animus are fundamental expressions of the unconscious forces within every person. The anima represents the feminine dimension of the male psyche, while the animus represents the masculine dimension of the female psyche. They are not mere theoretical concepts, but living forces that manifest through symbolic images, deep emotions, and especially through dreams and synchronicities. When we begin noticing the presence of these archetypes in our lives, it's a sign that the psyche is preparing for a new kind of encounter, one not born of need, but of integration. True love begins to reveal itself when the anima or animus are no longer blindly projected onto others and start to manifest within consciousness. This happens largely in the world of dreams. A woman who repeatedly dreams of masculine figures who guide, challenge, or comfort her is encountering her animus, not as an idealized external figure, but as an inner force seeking integration. Likewise, a man who dreams of mysterious, deep, or compassionate feminine figures is being touched by the anima, the portal connecting him with his soul, intuition, and sensitivity. These dreams are not random. They are messages from the unconscious, showing that something is transforming within. When the psyche begins to dialogue with these symbolic figures, it is preparing to recognize the real partner more consciously. What was once idealized outside is now recognized as part of the self. That recognition is a clear sign that true love is near, because one no longer seeks in another what is missing, but what resonates. Beyond dreams, synchronicities also reveal this movement. Jung defined synchronicity as two events connected not by cause, but by meaning. When we are attuned to the self, we begin noticing occurrences that seem to guide, confirm, or open paths without logical explanation. An unexpected meeting with someone who deeply moves us, a random phrase that answers an inner question, a recurring symbol appearing in different contexts, all are symbolic manifestations showing the inner archetypes aligning. These synchronic experiences shouldn't be read as romantic prophecies, but as reflections of the state of the soul. They show that something has shifted within us, and that the outer world is responding to it. When a person begins experiencing these moments frequently, it's a sign of alignment between their unconscious and conscious choices, an essential state for building true relationships. Jung saw such moments as meetings between chronological time and soul time, kairos, the exact instant when the invisible becomes visible. The integration of anima and animus also transforms how we choose partners. The woman who has integrated her animus no longer feels drawn to authoritarian or emotionally unavailable men, because she has learned to stand in her own authority, to think for herself, to trust her reason. The man who has integrated his anima no longer seeks fragile or mysterious women to compensate for his lack of emotional connection, for he has embraced his own vulnerability and intuition. These inner changes reduce projections and allow for more genuine, mature relationships. Another sign of this integration is the emergence of a new quality in emotional bonds. Conversations gain depth. There is more space for listening and less for competition, and eroticism becomes not only instinctual, but spiritual connection. The love that arises from this place is less dramatic, but infinitely more authentic. It is not fed by emotional games, but by presence, truth, and shared construction. Such love is rare precisely because it requires this inner work, this symbolic alchemy between the inner opposites. At this stage, it's common to feel a sense of familiarity upon meeting someone new. It's not instant physical attraction or superficial excitement, but a feeling that the encounter touches something ancient. Jung called this archetypal recognition, when the other person symbolically embodies aspects already awakened in ourselves. The other doesn't complete us, but reflects what has already been partially integrated. That's why these encounters often carry serene intensity, a connection that doesn't need explanation, only experience. The constant presence of anima or animus in consciousness also fuels creativity, spiritual expansion, and emotional growth. These archetypes not only prepare the psyche for true love, but elevate the level of awareness in all areas of life. When we are in contact with these inner forces, we attract partners who are also walking the same developmental path. The relationship born at that point is one in which both people are whole, not perfect, but aware of their light and shadow. Therefore, if you've been experiencing meaningful dreams, synchronicities that seem to guide your way, or shifts in how you relate to yourself and others, you're likely receiving signs that true love is approaching. And more than that you are becoming capable of recognizing and sustaining it with depth, courage, and presence. The true meeting of souls, from the Jungian perspective, goes far beyond shared interests or physical attraction. It is, essentially, a mirror of the soul. Jung said that the most meaningful relationships aren't the ones without conflict, but those that activate, challenge, and reflect the individuation process, the journey towards psychic wholeness. The other thus becomes a catalyst for growth, helping us, consciously or not, to confront our shadows, integrate our opposites, and express who we truly are. When one begins to see relationships through this symbolic lens, something deep transforms. The other is no longer seen as responsible for our happiness. Every interaction becomes a reflection of our inner state. This emotional maturity, recognizing relationships as opportunities for transformation rather than stages for ego repetition, is one of the clearest signs that true love is near. For Jung, individuation is the process of becoming who we truly are, not what others expect us to be. But this process doesn't unfold in isolation. It reveals itself and deepens precisely through relationships. Through the other, we perceive our contradictions, our open wounds, our defenses, and also our capacity to love truthfully. When we can sustain another's presence without trying to mold them to our expectations, we demonstrate not only readiness for love, but also a high degree of inner integration. True relationships don't exclude pain, they give it new meaning. Crises cease to be signs of failure and become stages of joint growth. The other shows us, often with surgical precision, where we are not yet whole. And though that revelation may hurt, it is a gift, for only by seeing what is wounded can we choose to heal. When both partners embrace this inner journey, the relationship becomes sacred ground for mutual individuation. In this light, true love is not about avoiding conflict, but moving through it consciously. It's not about tolerating what harms us, but recognizing that friction between two psychic worlds is both inevitable and necessary, for it's in that friction that sparks of transformation are born. The other, then, is not an ideal to achieve, nor a burden to carry, but a living reflection of the soul, a mirror showing with honesty who we are in that moment. This kind of relationship demands presence. One cannot live it on autopilot, repeating inherited patterns or reacting unconsciously. Every gesture, word, and silence becomes an opportunity. Will we repeat or will we transform? True love does not erase the ego, but it doesn't worship it either. It invites the ego to surrender to the self, the deeper intelligence of the psyche that knows the soul doesn't seek safety. It seeks expansion. That's why when true love approaches, there is a feeling of recognition, as if the person entering our life awakens something long asleep. They don't come to complete us, but to reveal what was already within, waiting for the right moment to emerge. And that moment is marked by clear signs. We feel freer, truer, more courageous to be ourselves. The relationship becomes a space where the soul can breathe. This kind of love is not built on promises of permanence, but on continuous presence. There is no guarantee it will last forever, yet there is certainty that while it exists, it serves the soul's deepest purpose: integration. And even if the path between the two must one day end, what was lived remains an essential part of the individuation journey, because such love, even if brief, leaves the mark of truth, and truth, once touched, can never be forgotten. The other, as the mirror of the soul, shows us what we cannot yet see but must. They help us access layers we might never reach alone. At the same time, they invite us to become mirrors too, to offer the other a sincere, loving, and steady reflection of who they are becoming. When this exchange is mutual, a connection is born that is not based on control, dependency, or idealization, but on presence, freedom, and creation. The approach of true love is then the natural consequence of a deep reconciliation with oneself. When we stop running from who we are, face our shadows, integrate our opposites, and stop projecting our unmet needs onto others, love can finally arise, not as necessity, but as celebration. The soul, at last, sees in the mirror of the other not only reflections of itself, but new possibilities of being. When we understand that true love is not an external event, but a reflection of an inner movement, everything changes. The anxious waiting turns into quiet preparation. Painful repetitions become paths of healing, and encounters stop being coincidences to become signs. The journey through inner silence, through the shadow, through the integration of anima and animus, and through seeing relationships as mirrors of the soul is in truth a return to ourselves. Carl Jung shows us that authentic love is not about finding someone to fill our voids, but about becoming whole enough to share that wholeness with another. And when that happens, the signs appear, in synchronicities, in dreams, in the serenity that precedes the encounter, and in the recognition that happens not through the eyes, but through the soul. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who is also on this journey of self-discovery. And don't forget to watch the suggested video on the screen. It may bring even more clarity to your current moment. Remember, when you are ready, love does not delay, it finds you.